I think that's coming out later this year.
Who's playing the cocaine?
Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk.
Oh, we're on for that? I didn't know we were on for that.
Oh, boy. Jeff here. Brad, what's going on, dude?
Dude, just another day. Steelers are dead, so I'm ready for the basketball season to get going and hockey to start up. So
Steelers aren't dead. Steelers are not dead. Yeah, I think the topic of conversation today is going to really be who's dead, who's not dead. Just what our opinions are on teams through 3 weeks. And to be honest, I don't feel like we have a ton of knowledge on these teams. How do you feel about that?
I feel really strongly, bad or good, about 5 teams maybe. And
okay.
As I grow, and gambling for me grows, I become more of a fan of the sport. I still am a Steelers fan. That's never going to be muddied at all. But I do find solace in the fact that I can enjoy many games and bet on games and enjoy teams and watch the growth of players, even though the Steelers are dead.
Did you make money this weekend? I know you had me play some wagers for you.
I put so for those of you who are wondering, most of the time on my betting strategy, I choose an odd number of games that I like. I put the same amount on all of them versus the spread, and all I have to do is go positive to win money. I was 3-2, won $14. I bet a total of 120 on all of them, won 3. Real tough losses. I had the 49ers minus 1.5. Then that game happened. I had Chiefs minus 5.5. They had a special teams nightmare all game. Still had a chance late, didn't happen. And if I would have done a 6th game, I would have went Lions. But if what ifs were 5ths, I'd be drunk. So we're just going to go ahead and stick with the 5 games. But yes, I went positive.
When you called me and you were having me place these wagers for you, the one that I absolutely hated for you was the Colts Chiefs. I thought you were overlooking the Colts in that situation because if you remember preseason, we both picked the Colts there. We talked about why that would be a good matchup for them coming home. The thing is like we even discussed potentially losing to Jacksonville, potentially losing that other game. I felt you just overlooked them, and I'm not there to argue with you. This is the money you want, and I put it in just like I didn't argue the Ravens Patriots, even though I was more confident that the Ravens would cover than the Chiefs.
All I know is the Chiefs, they missed an extra point. They missed a field goal. They fumbled the punt. After he fumbled the punt, he was scared to return the next punt, ended up being downed at the 1. They had 2 kick returns, ran out to inside the 15. And then at the end of the game, if they do make the field goal, they're up 6 on a 4th and 15, and they call that crazy penalty. So there was a lot of things that led to the Chiefs losing a 3-point game.
You felt like you were on the right side.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about it, but that's the NFL, baby. That's what it is. But there is something to what we believe to be a well-coached team with a good defense at home getting 5.5. Maybe I wasn't on the smart side of it, but I still feel good about it. I don't feel bad about any of the bets I put in. I think the 49ers should have done better too, but that's okay.
I have 3 topics before we get into any questions that we're going to go back and forth with. First one I want to start with doesn't seem to be huge news now, but I believe it was yesterday. Myles Garrett was in a car accident. The reports that I'm reading are that he swerved on a rainy day to avoid an animal, ended up rolling his vehicle. He did have some injuries. It does sound like non-life threatening. His passenger in the car, don't really know who that was. Maybe it was a girlfriend, maybe it wasn't, don't know. Also received non-life threatening injuries. Both seem to be okay. Figured I'd throw that out there. Any comments on that?
No, that's good. Oftentimes when you work hard in the gym to be bigger than the cars that you're driving, you'll be okay. So yeah. Myles Garrett ain't scared of no car flipping. He probably got out and to check if he was okay, rolled it one more time for a quick workout, make sure everything was all right. No, it's good to hear that they're okay. I like watching Myles Garrett play football. He seems like a good enough guy. You never want to see anybody get hurt, and Yeah, I'm glad to hear he's okay. It was an interesting story when you first hear car accident, Myles Garrett, this is being reported, and then multiple flips. Then you're like, oh, yeah, he'll be checked out of the hospital in a few hours. They're just running some make sure he's all right tests.
Yep. Second thing is Tampa Bay, and all of Florida, by the way, is currently under a hurricane warning. Hurricane Ian seems like it is coming full throttle, and it's heading. I don't have the exact coordinates, but Tampa is definitely one of their destinations, and obviously that situation affects the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're supposedly heading to Miami right now. That game at Sunday Night Football is up in the air as to when or where it will be played. Figured I'd throw that out there. Any comments on that?
Nope, that's life, baby. At least the technology's there to where we know it's coming and can get out of the way. But anytime you're on the coast and it's hurricane season, these things can happen, and at least it's not out of nowhere. They can move and maybe potentially move it, flex one game up to Sunday night and move their game to a doubleheader on Monday night, maybe, and move them somewhere more in the country. I don't know if you can move them to Kansas City. That'd kind of be too much on the home games, but maybe you can move them up to Atlanta and play Tampa versus Kansas City in Atlanta or wherever. I don't know, but at least it doesn't look like, no, I mean, they're evacuating, so everybody will be all right.
Next thing, this is, I guess, the first topic of conversation I wanted to bring up. Were you able to watch Sunday Night Football? I'm guessing you did. You had money on the game.
Yes. I watched most of it. I fell asleep before the Broncos touchdown to win it.
You fell asleep. Imagine that. Holy.
It was.
I'm not joking you. That was the worst football game I've watched in a long time.
I think I remember seeing it going into the fourth quarter, like they were doing the quarter break. And I just turned on my side and said, I'll listen for something exciting or I'll fall asleep. And guess which one happened first?
I follow Pat McAfee on Twitter, and he almost always will call out when punters do something great. Obviously, former punter,
Right.
It's kind of his expertise, and loves giving punters love. This dude might have had 6 punter tweets that night because literally the entire game was about the punters. It was just punt back and forth, 3 and out, punt back and forth.
One of the crazy things, though, is to have 7 punts and none of them be shanks or miss hits or blocks. Like, I guess the punters did go out there and were just field position. I mean, wasn't it the Broncos punter had like 10 punts for over 400 yards, and then the 49ers had like 7 for like 312 or something? It was like
Fantasy
700
numbers.
or 800 yards of punts.
Fantasy numbers right there. It's holy cow. Which leads to me in my first question. I guess I'll start her off. Who is the real teams at 1 and 2? I'm gonna read you every single team at 1 and 2, and here's what I'm looking for. Rapid fire. Give me a for real, don't know, out.
There's going to be some I might try and go a little longer because I have stronger opinions, but for the most part.
That's fine. That's fine. Give me the best you got. Here we go. We're going to start off with the Sunday night teams. So the 49ers.
This is Jimmy Garoppolo in a new offense without Mike McDaniel. He didn't have the playbook why they were trying to potentially trade him. So it is a little bit newer for him. Something they can hang their hat on is they're the only defense in the NFL holding teams under 4 yards per play, and the defense looks stout. I think Jimmy G will come around on it. The offense is too talented. I think they'll get going. I think they're going to be okay.
I agree. The Cardinals.
I don't like the Cardinals, and I think their only win was against a winless team in a dramatic comeback that was aided by some just questionable things going on. I've never wavered that I'm out on the Cardinals, but what I do get upset about is for some reason people don't talk about DeAndre Hopkins when they bring up like top 5 or 6 wide receiver lists. Hollywood Brown had 17 targets and 14 catches last week. When they get DeAndre Hopkins back, this offense can do stuff. I just think they have a lack of players anywhere on the defense.
So you're out.
I'm out.
Just to clear.
Yes.
Seattle.
Out on Seattle. Their only win, the Broncos' first game, new coach, new quarterback, 0-5 in the red zone, some weird stuff. Out on the Seahawks.
Atlanta.
I love what they can do offensively. I think Cordell Patterson is like 5th or 7th in the league in rushing yards. They finally got Kyle Pitts involved. Drake London's figuring it out. Nick Wright on First Things First did a side-by-side blind quarterback comparison, and he has 4 more touchdowns and 2 more interceptions than Russell Wilson, but Mariota has pretty much the same numbers. I just think their defense is too bad. But gosh, this offense is kind of fun to watch, and I think that they're a good team. They're a fun team to watch. Good fantasy team too.
Yeah. Saints.
I really like the Saints defense, and I was higher on them early, but now knowing that Jameis Winston is playing through some bad pain, Alvin Kamara can't get it going. They lost Teron Armstead and the guy they drafted to back him up at tackle. The offensive line looks bad. Michael Thomas, they're hoping it's not serious toe injury. Jarvis Landry, they're saying it probably is serious with his leg injury. Tampa is one of the top teams in the league. The Panthers and Falcons, I think in division can sneak around. If we're talking in or out being playoffs, I'm out on the Saints.
A couple more NFC. Carolina.
I'm out on them making the playoffs, but they're starting to turn. They looked better week 3 than they did 1 and 2. That's for sure. I know it's hard to be out on every NFC team. Someone's got to make the playoffs, but like you've got the Lions, Packers, Vikings. You've got the Rams, 49. There's other teams.
It almost sounds like the teams in the NFC are kind of figuring things out, and maybe the AFC. We'll get there, but maybe the AFC is more questions. Yeah. Detroit Lions.
I'm all in, baby. They just gotta learn to finish late. But man, they're in every game. Both their running backs are dogs. They're getting Jamison Williams back, and I believe they lead the league with 95 points scored through 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't like to do this kind of stuff, but sometimes I'll do it. The Lions have 2 losses. One of them is to the Eagles. They are, let me check notes, undefeated. Okay. And their other losses to the Vikings. And the Vikings only have 1 loss to, check notes, the Eagles.
It was close. The Lions-Vikings game was 4 points.
In theory, Lions losses 3. I actually think the Lions still have a lot of potential. I never thought they would win the North. I didn't think they'd have a shot at winning in the North. They're going to hang around and make it exciting. That'll be fun. Washington football team. Commanders, sorry.
I'm out, and it actually agitates me that they even have a win, which is a weird comeback against the Jags because the Jags should be 3-0. It's an aggravating win. I'm out. Carson Wentz has too many turnovers, but if you can get your hands on anyone from Washington in fantasy, do it. Carson Wentz is spraying that ball around. Their defense isn't very good, so they're on the field a lot, and they have to throw the ball. There's a great fantasy team out on them in the playoffs.
AFC time. You ready?
I think so, but
the Chargers.
So the Chargers, everyone knows how drastically high it was, and it bothers me that if things keep going bad, they're just going to say, typical Chargers. We knew you shouldn't have been on them before the season. Justin Herbert has fractured ribs. Keenan Allen hasn't played since the 3rd quarter of game 1. Their right tackle, maybe their best offensive lineman, gone for the season.
Arguably one of the best linemen in the league, Rashawn Slater.
If they didn't have Corey Linsley at center, it would be runaway. And then Joey Bosa now with an ankle injury. J.C. Jackson had surgery before the season, and he's, maybe not playing at 100%. This team's been decimated by injury, but if Justin Herbert can get right, this team's still going to be scary. But it's hard to say in because there's so many teams in the AFC. But I am not out on the Chargers. I still think they can figure this out. Keenan Allen comes back. They have Eckler, Williams. That offense can carry just as well as the defense could. I am in on the Chargers.
We've agreed pretty much the entire way. Titans.
So the Titans and Broncos are 2 of the most intriguing teams to me. Because the Titans, a 2-point conversion by a desperate Giants trying to make a splash with their new coach and team, and then a missed game-winning field goal. And then just like they got steamrolled by the Bills. Sometimes it's going to happen to you. But they play the Raiders, And their first 3 drives, all 70. Here's the thing. They got to play a team with a bad D-line. I'm out on the Titans. Their offense is limited to a running game, and if you have a good D-line, you can stop the Titans, and they don't scare you on defense. The Raiders were still able to score on them, just not enough at the end there. I'm out on the Titans. Also because the Jags are playing so good, and the Colts, not out on the Colts. Not out on the Colts.
We disagree here. I think the Titans are exactly what we think the Titans are, but we think they're going to be worse. They're a team that's going to fight tooth and nail every single game. And sometimes that's going to wind up in a win. Sometimes it's going to wind up in a loss. And they're going to play their best football. Are you going to play your best football is kind of what it comes down to. And when the Bills played their best football, there was no match. But I don't know. I think the Titans could sneak in as a 7th seed or even win the division, depending on how good the Jags are. I'm sure we'll talk about the Jags. Matter of fact, I know we will. I think the Titans are okay.
I like how the Jags and Colts match up with them, and we'll learn a lot more after they play this weekend. The Colts and the Titans play this weekend. We'll learn a lot.
Yep, that's a massive game, actually. I think early in the year, it's huge for them. Cincinnati.
I'm in. I know that they've lost 2, and then their first win is against the Jets. But their last 6 quarters of football, to me, seem like they've got something figured out a little bit. Joe Burrow, I don't think, has a pick in his last 6 quarters. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd getting a deep touchdown. We didn't realize it would look as ugly in the beginning, but a new O-line takes some time to gel. And through 3 weeks, I think they've kind of figured it out. And I think the Bengals are going to be okay. I'm not ready to be out on them. But it is tough because the Browns look a little bit better, and the Ravens are good.
Yeah. Jets.
Out.
Patriots.
Out.
Steelers.
Out.
Wow. I'm going to defend the Patriots just for a minute.
Just because Matt Jones out, too, and I thought he's what gave him a big chance to win early. And the Dolphins and Bills in their own division.
I've been defending this to people that want to listen because everybody wanted to tell me the Patriots were horrific this year. And while, your buddy, J-Mag, as you call him, made a joke about the Jags potentially finishing with more wins about the Patriots, that actually doesn't look like a dig at this point.
Doesn't look bad.
That doesn't look like a knock on the Patriots. But at the same token, the Patriots have lost to the Dolphins, who are undefeated. They've lost to the Ravens, who their only loss is to the Dolphins. And, we'll talk about MVPs here in a minute, but Lamar's looked real fucking good, okay? And then they beat the Steelers. They've been competitive in 2 of their 3 games. Actually, all 3 of their games were decided in the 4th quarter. So I think there's some things to like. There's some things to obviously dislike. Unfortunately, Mac Jones now, depending on if he misses games, could be huge. And they have Green Bay this week. They could drop to 1-3. I'll let you go because I got more, obviously. But that was a long one, but I'll let you go.
Well, we kind of answered it. My first question was, do you agree that the Steelers and Patriots are dead? You're still holding out hope for the Patriots. And
I don't think the Steelers are dead either. I actually am kind of hoping that after this weekend, so you get 10 days rest now. You played on Thursday night. And this weekend you play the
Jets.
Who do you play this?
Jets.
The Jets. Can we agree that that's a must-win if Trubisky wants to stay the starter?
I would say you could say it's a must-win, but I guess here's why I'm out on the Steelers. We've seen enough to know what the defense is without TJ Watt. Now, we're also not going to have Minka because he's in concussion protocol this week. So the defense is weak. The offenses look bad, and the Jets haven't looked terrible. Okay?
No, they've been competitive, shockingly.
Oh, right. But they said that TJ Watt, if he was to come back as early as possible, would be week 8. The Steelers have a bye week, week 9. After the Jets, the Steelers are at Buffalo, home against the Buccaneers, at the Dolphins, at the Eagles.
I'm aware. It's a gauntlet.
0-4.
They'll shockingly upset somebody in there. They're not going 0-4.
But let's say we win the Jets and then win one of those 3 games. We're 3-5 going into our bye week. Like, I don't know. It's the earliest I've ever been out. The offense doesn't look good. TJ Watt's hurt.
You kind of leapfrogged me though. I'm asking about this specific game.
Oh, for
because
Kenny Pickett.
Does Kenny Pickett make any bit of a difference to this team?
Unless injury happens, Kenny Pickett doesn't play before the bye week. Because with our offensive line, and Mitch honestly hasn't been that bad. Like, there's a lot of problems with the team. But if you let Mitch run through that gauntlet, the thing is you have to run Mitch, I've said this before, as far to the end and then a little bit more to make sure that when you go to Kenny, that's it. Mitch, you've had 8 games on the Steelers. You've gone 2-6 or 3-5, and the offense is terrible. And you put Kenny Pickett in after the bye week where you get back-to-back home games. Still Saints-Bengals, but you get back-to-back home games. I think that's where you would start him in the second half of the season. You give 8 to Mitch, and if it's dire, you give 8 to Kenny. Because you got to see Kenny for 8 games, knowing how many quarterbacks are available next year. You got to know if you have the guy. So if we're, playoffs are pretty much out of it, but Kenny has a chance in 8 games and goes 5-3 or 6-2, we've got our guy on offense. But I still don't think that you make Kenny, and I know you can't hide from the NFL, but like Bills, Bucks, Dolphins, Eagles, how do you just start Kenny on a struggling team in the middle of that gauntlet? I just don't think you can.
That's fair. Most surprising team. I want you to give me at least one good and one bad. If you got multiple, that's fine too.
Well, the bad is the easiest choice. It's the Raiders. I mean, I wasn't as high as you were, but 0-3, are you kidding me? And the way they've looked, kind of, there's nothing inspiring about what I've seen from that team. And I thought, like you, they're going to have offensive explosions, and it's going to be hasn't really been any offensive explosion. It's kind of been a different.
They haven't even scored 30.
Yeah, so I think the Raiders is the easy choice there. And the good team surprise, me and my buddy Chris, we kind of chirp a little bit on Real Talk. We were higher on the Eagles and Dolphins. I didn't know the Dolphins would be 3-0, but I'm not going to select them for that reason. I thought they had this at least in them. The Jacksonville Jaguars. We thought they would be good, but they've looked really good. And outside of a week 1 little collapse against Washington, little hiccup, they went 24-0 against the Colts and then 38-10, outscoring the Colts and Chargers in back-to-back weeks by a combined 52 points. I mean, the team is really motivated. Trevor Lawrence looks like the guy we wanted him to look like after that abysmal Jaguars situation. I could be overlooking somebody, but I am going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's just an easy right there.
There's a couple for me. There's different reasons for all of them. The Lions, because they're way more competitive at this point in the season than I thought they would be.
That offense.
Yeah, they've looked really good, and they have some injuries already. They've even been beat up on the offensive line and still been able to run the football at an effective rate. And they still get Jameson Williams back in a couple of weeks. People forget about that.
Also, like the Eagles, the last 2 weeks, the Eagles were able to win without scoring in the second half, which the Eagles need to do better at that, but they've been able to win. The Lions took them to the last drive of the game, put 35 up on a defense that's held their next 2 opponents to where they didn't even need points in the second half. So that just speaks to how real this offense is of the Lions.
I got Miami because I didn't think Tua would be this good. Tua's been really good. He's at least solidified himself as the starter for this season and the following, period. As of right now, we've seen nothing that tells me that Tua can't be your franchise quarterback, and there were a lot of question marks going into this season.
Also, I know when I was talking, like when we were doing our breakdowns, I talked about Hurts taking a jump and Tua taking a jump. Didn't know they'd be like 1-2 in the whole thing and all that. But when you were like, what makes you think they're going to take a jump? It was simply, I thought the Eagles and the Dolphins and the Jaguars were the three teams that added the most crucial pieces in free agency. Like all of them, well, the Eagles already had theirs, but Teron Armstead and Brandon Sheriff for the Jags and Dolphins to shore up the offensive line. Christian Kirk, Tyreek Hill to add a veteran, like still in their prime receiver. Tyreek obviously better than Christian. A.J. Brown for the Eagles. I thought it was just like the whole team's around him. So you can say like, well, Tua needed the weapons, and it's like, yeah, you should give all your quarterbacks weapons. Not everyone can be Brady and take, guys who would be second, thirds and be able to still move the ball like you did. Tua needed weapons. Yeah, a lot of guys, they're going up against NFL defenses. They'd like to have weapons.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought the jump and like why I didn't expect Matt to regress, but like not jump simply because it was like they didn't really add any like big piece for him. Like they didn't go out and build on their offense. Matt played well.
Yeah, and Devonte Parker, by the way, we added, and he played real well.
Yeah, he had that. Yeah, okay. He did add
Devonte Parker had the best game he had the best game a New England wide receiver has had since sometime Julian Edelman. At some point, Julian Edelman. Yeah. Literally, he kept us in that game. I was shocked. Another one I wrote down was the Raiders. You already said that one. And then my last one, the Bengals. I just thought they would be more dominant through 3 games, not 1 and 2.
Yeah,
kind of surprising to me. Thought they would be way more better.
Cowboys prediction a little bit.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to go right into my next question. You brought it up. Have you changed your mind on the Cowboys at all?
It's really hard because there was part of me that's like,
you want to be right.
Well, no. But I was sitting there and I was like, does my take on the Cowboys looking more and more wrong make my take on Dak look a little bit more right? But that's not what I did. I just because I don't want to kill Dak because what we've seen from Tampa's defense, that is not a fun team to play. It's just Dak was up against, the best defense in the NFL, if we're being quite frank about it. And then week 2, it was they caught a reeling Bengals team. But I think where I was wrong in the Cowboys is I had no idea the front 7 would be that good. And I thought losing Randy Gregory. I thought DeMarcus Lawrence was finished. I knew they had Micah. I knew they had Micah Parsons. But DeMarcus Lawrence has turned back the page a couple years. He had like 3 sacks on Monday night. I think it was the second most pressures in the last 2 years. And the most by far this year was like it was a quarterback pressure on like 29% of the snaps. I knew there was Aaron Donald. I knew there was TJ Watt. I knew there was Garrett. I thought those 3 were the best front 7 players. Micah's in that tier, no question.
100%.
I saw Micah put a hand into a left tackle and then throw his shoulder into the left guard, and the guard literally fell over, and guys were just running free. He is a game record. Obvious passing downs, he just looked at Saquon and was like, come on, let's go. It's me and you. He's a little bit more diverse than Garrett Watt. He can do a lot more with his
he is the most versatile of all those guys.
Sideline to sideline speed, Micah Parsons. Defense has played tremendous. They've completely given in to where they have 2 running backs to combine to be a number 1. There is no lead back. They have given into that. I didn't think they would. I thought they were going to try and kill Zeke. No, Pollard rips off a 14 and a 16-yard gain as the 3rd and 1, and Zeke's full health hasn't played like 4 snaps, and he's just falling forward being the Zeke. So Cooper Rush is playing smart. I think they'll be maybe even a little bit more dynamic when Dak comes back because, again, this is going to bleed into my next question. I'm going to transition it right now. With Cooper Rush or Daniel Jones, the way we were going on the Giants and the Cowboys had just beat the Bengals, did it not matter? Whoever won Monday night, we were going to overreact. Cowboys are all the way back to this and that. Giants are way better than we thought. Like, was it going to be an overreaction regardless of who won? And these 2 teams are simply just like, the Giants took a 2-point conversion and missed field goal to beat the Titans. Then they play the Cowboys close, who caught a reeling Bengals team who just lost to the Steelers with 5 turnovers. Like, do we know about either of these teams and we were bound to overreact? I will say the only thing I know for sure is Saquon and that Cowboys defense. They're real. They are real this year, but I'll just give it to you. Were we going to overreact on whichever team won?
No, we were going to overreact if the Giants won. Because both of us picked them to win 2 games this year. And had they won 3 through the first 3 weeks, we would have both been wrong. I have been trying to get you to see the light on the Cowboys. I'm not saying they're winning 12 games, but I couldn't bring myself to the understanding that where you were at, that the Cowboys were as bad as you were saying. And truthfully, I thought they had 2 things going for them, a running game and a pass rush. I thought for sure that you had kind of seen that too. I did have my concerns about Cooper leaving and them getting no compensation back, and they didn't really upgrade the position. Noah Brown has been okay, but that's also with Cooper Rush showing to him who he's practiced with for 4.5, 5 years. We have not seen Michael Gallup yet. CeeDee Lamb has had, that one-hander last night in the corner of the end zone with his left hand was absolutely filthy, but he also dropped a wide open touchdown pass. So it's like, you get a little bit of both with CD, and I don't know that he's been a true number one. I wish I would have not overreacted to the Giants 2-0 start and picked who I thought was the better team to begin with, and that was the Cowboys. So I'm not shocked the Cowboys won last night. The Giants are limited, and that limitation starts with Daniel Jones. So outside of that, I think the Giants have a good roster. And it is absolutely highway robbery what Kenny Golladay has done to the Giants. At this point, I would just straight cut him.
When they went to him on that 4th down and 2 at midfield on the slant, I was like, why are you throwing to Kenny Golladay?
Cut him. Just straight up cut him. Cut your losses now.
And that's the Giants' big gripe, I think, is sticking the ball in the end zone. From what I've seen through 3 weeks, they're kicking a lot of field goals.
Yeah.
But they're moving the ball pretty well. And the defense, to be fair, has held teams to 20, 16, and 23. So the defense is playing okay, but, complimentary football.
I got a question on the fly. Did not write this down, but I have it now. NFC East, 3-0, 2-0, or 2-1, 2-1, 1-2. NFC West, 2-1, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. We thought the NFC West was elite. We thought the NFC East was trash. Is there truth to any of this? Is this just overreaction through 3 weeks? Is the NFC East better than you thought? Is the NFC West worse than you thought? What justify what I just said?
So here's what I know. Seahawks and Washington are in 4th place in both. I believe
trash.
They are
trash.
Both bad. I like the Eagles and Rams. I think the Eagles are the best team of the 8. 49ers, Cardinals, Cowboys, Giants. Just week to week, you never know what you're going to get. I think they're pretty even divisions. I think they're really even divisions.
I agree.
I
agree.
Really
would you agree that the Rams have a higher ceiling than the Eagles, or you just think they're overall just better straight up?
I think the Buccaneers and the Eagles are the best teams in the NFC. And I think the AFC North is the strongest division with the emergence of the Lions and how they've looked. Vikings, Packers. No clear runaway there, but I think top to bottom, I think that's the division with the best chance to put 3 teams in the playoffs is the NFC North.
I got 2 more, unless you got some.
No, go ahead.
We already did the 1 and 2 teams. I want to do the 2 and 1 teams real quick. Who's pretend? Who's real? Okay. Mm-hmm. This one, because they're 2 and 1, we're not out on anybody. It's just pretend, real. That's really all you need here. Bills, real.
Yeah, they're real.
The Browns.
You know what? I think they're real. It was an odd debacle against the Jets in a weird game. Team should be 3-0. Deshaun Watson's coming back later. I mean, the way they're running the ball, they're real. Browns are real.
The Ravens.
So real.
So real.
So good.
Jags.
Real.
I like the Jags.
They have a great D-line, 2 good pass rushers. They acquired the middle linebacker. They have a corner. And, man, this offense is just – I mean, Trevor Lawrence starting to get comfortable. They have 2 running backs they like, an O-line that they've worked on the last few years. Absolutely real. Evan Ingram looks to be a little bit more alive in this culture more than the Giants. It may have just been a mental thing. He may have just not liked being at the Giants. He looks more alive and into it.
To be fair, Doug Peterson was great with tight ends in Philly.
Yeah.
He was great with Ertz. He was great with Goddard. And, yeah, he was great with tight ends. I'll say this about the Jags. I would have been impressed had they gone on the road to the Jets and beat them 38-10. When they did that to the Chargers, I was like, wow. Okay.
Hurt or not.
Hurt or not, does not matter. This is an NFL team in their stadium, and you gut punched them. It's impressive.
Beat them to sleep.
Nasty.
Pixar lamp on the eye.
Yeah. So I got some easy ones coming, though. Kansas City.
Real.
Yeah. Denver.
This is a team I'm definitely real. I'm in on the Broncos.
Wow.
And I knew that would shock some
people. You defend it? Can you defend it?
Yeah.
Because let me just simply say,
shock.
I can't believe I didn't put them in my most surprising team. I can't believe how bad they are. This is not normal. They are.
No,
they should not be 2-1. They have no business being 2-1.
Right, because they should be 3-0.
They should be 0-3.
No.
They should be 0-3.
No. So
yes, hit me. Give me your best.
Let's take Aaron Rodgers, one of the best regular season quarterbacks. Okay. In his first season with Nathaniel Hackett and Matt LaFleur, through 3 games, he had his worst QBR and passer rating since his rookie year. Okay. Russell Wilson comes over to a new offense. He gets a rookie head coach. Time management is an issue early. They're figuring out he's hired new people to even help him with this situation. They have a double-headed backfield. They lost at Seattle against the 12s in the return. 0-5 in the red zone. Some really weird fumbles. They should have won that game. Jerry Jeudy leaves in the first game, misses the second. One of their strongest weapons, he's back. Cortland Sutton, he's still getting in a rhythm with the entire team in game. But what you can hang your hat on is this defense has held teams to 16, 10, and 9. The defense is rock solid. They're there. They have 2 good corners. Justin Simmons, who in the previous 4 years of his career has missed 8 snaps. He's had to miss 4 games. He's got 1 left on that. I think the Broncos have had a slow start, and to find themselves at 2-1, kicking their heads that they feel they should be 3-0. I think this Broncos team is ready to go. The Raiders have flopped on their face here early. The Chargers are injured, and I think it's opened a door for the Broncos. Russ has started slow. He will get going. And although he doesn't have the touchdowns, he doesn't have the interceptions either. He can let his guy punt 10 times and still find a way on the final drive when nothing's been working on a tremendous 49ers defense to drive down and score a touchdown. I don't think the Broncos haven't looked the part at all, but I think they are good at a lot of things, and the things they haven't been good at are totally fixable, and I think the Broncos are just going to be fine. I don't think they're going to be a team that's just going to run over teams, but I think we're going to look back in these first 3 weeks and say we saw the worst of the Broncos, not what they actually are. And there's a lot of people that will go the other way. That'll be like, man, what is Russ? Maybe that's why they didn't let him cook in Seattle. They needed to run and just throw deep balls. And it's like that. I think that is an easy take, and maybe it's higher percentage to be right. But I have turned head and I've gone to the other side of the fence where right now it is dirt. But I believe when this grass seed that we're planting fertilizing, little Nick Sirianni, I think the grass will be greener on the side that airs with the Broncos. Preseason, I'm higher now than I was in the preseason, even after they've looked bad and still been able to win.
You halfway kind of sold me.
Just something to think about. I don't want people to come to my side. I just want people who listen to that to maybe be like, There is another way to think about the Broncos and just let it creep in a little bit.
The reason that we coexist, you and I, doing this pod, is I feel like you're a very rational person. And I think you will be, but I want you to keep everything that you just said in your mind for a team I'm going to say in a little bit. I'm not going to say them right now. But we'll keep going. I want to circle back because I think we will.
Okay.
Maybe we won't. Maybe we won't. Dallas.
Looking at their schedule, I think they might be real. That hurts to say, but I may have
Giants.
been a little pretender.
Giants. Pretender. Vikings.
Real.
Packers.
Real.
Bears.
Doing one.
Isn't that nuts?
Hey, through 3 weeks, they've completed 23 passes.
It's in. Have you seen Justin Fields' stats through 3 games? Are you pulling it up?
I wasn't gonna, but I can try and find it quick.
Just type in Justin Fields' stats and read it to the audience as you're looking it up. Rams.
Real. So let me see stats here. I got it pulling up. 2022, right?
This is. I want yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and rating. Hit me.
Through 3 games, he has attempted 45 passes and completed 23 for a 51% completion rating.
Yep.
He has 297 yards, which is 6.6 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's been sacked 10 times.
How many yards does he have through 3 games?
297, so 99 yards a game per average. I believe the average isn't in front of me, but that's the math.
No. Yeah, it's 99 yards a game. You're correct. That's why I wanted you to repeat it.
However,
he has less than a passing touchdown per game in 4 picks. And he has yet to have 100 passer rating. It's all been like 90 or less, I believe.
He has 95 rushing yards with a touchdown, but he also has 3 fumbles, although they've lost none of them.
How in the hell is that team 2-1?
Well, the Tsunami Bowl against the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about it. They were playing themselves and the Texans, and they ended up having the ball last. Kicked the field goal and won.
The Buccaneers.
They're real.
So, obviously, you didn't say anything about it. The way that Denver played with all of their star receivers on Sunday night, okay, was how Tom Brady played with his 5th, 6th, and 7th string receivers. Obviously, Russ came out with the win. He had all of his guys. Tom came up short. I just feel like I just can't believe that the Broncos are getting as much credit from you, I guess, is where I'm coming from. Obviously, you know, if you were gonna trash the Bucs, I was gonna give you the business, but you didn't.
No. In my rankings, the Broncos aren't in my top 10 because
I know
there's that many teams that have looked good, and this is obviously I like Nick Wright for this reason. When I watch him, he has predictions. Some of them are wild, and you're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And when they're right, he'll let you know about it.
Oh, he absolutely will.
What a lot of people don't see, whether it's through his podcast, TV show, when he is wrong. Yeah, I missed. My bad. Like, I was wrong. Yeah, he wears it. It's not like he like runs from it or tries to like turn it to how he could be right. Like, and that's what I do. Like, I don't have to yet, but I'm looking like I'm going to be wrong in the Cowboys. But I could also sit here and be like, Eagles told you. You know, but I'm right on some of them.
Because that's what Nick Wright would do.
Exactly.
He would bring that up 4 times an hour.
Yeah, I was wrong on the Steelers. I was wrong on the Browns. You know, wish I could have been right on the Chargers. These injuries are killing me, but it's only 3 weeks. But I do have here as a question.
Hit me.
September's about over. I think the last September game is this Thursday, right? Or is this weekend coming up September still?
No, it's October games.
October 2nd is this Sunday.
Yep.
with one game left in September, and let's assume it's going to be a good one, Dolphins-Bengals. Is this like the best September ever? And also, is football not like the greatest sport?
This is a hard question because obviously New England sucks, and you probably feel that because Pittsburgh's not very good either. But this is the most competitive this league has been, and I can't remember how long.
How many times do we get through 3 weeks and only one team hasn't won a game? And that team's lost by 2, and they've lost on a 22
Actually,
point.
There's 2 teams that haven't won a game. The Raiders are 0-3, but the Texans are 0-2-1.
Oh, yeah, okay. You know, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, there's 2 teams.
Shame on me.
Everybody wanted to crown the Raiders as 0-3, but the Texans haven't won either.
Hey, Jimmy, edit that out before we put that on social.
No, dude, I'm loving what we're seeing. I think what's the word I'm looking for? Your non-personal game. So obviously, whoever your favorite team is, when you are not watching that team, traditionally you're getting good football. Obviously, Sunday night was horrendous. Even Monday night started off pretty bad. It got really good third and fourth quarter. But I mean, ultimately, I think we're getting really good football in the dramatics and everything else too. The quarterback play, all that stuff.
I had 3 ESPN fantasy leagues, and in one of them, I was up by 22. Guy had CeeDee Lamb and Zeke, but I had Saquon. In one league, I was down 11, had Saquon. In the other league, I was down 6, had Saquon.
You won them all.
Dub.
That's nice. I was in a league. Shout out Tyler. I was winning by 38, and this dude tried to smack talk me that CD was about to drop 40 on me, and for the dub. Too busy dropping to 0-3, Tyler. I hope you're getting this shout out here. You'll probably listen, maybe. Last question before power rankings.
Okay.
Unless you got something else, but here's my last question. Who's the MVP through 3 weeks?
MVP through 3 weeks.
Yep.
My vote will go to Jalen Hurts.
I had a feeling. It's fine. It's fine. It's fair.
I think Tua and Lamar Jackson are the other 2. I think right now, if you had to vote, those are the 3 guys.
For me, I don't think Tua's even the best player on his team, so it's hard to give him MVP.
I didn't say that in that order. Hurts, Lamar.
Lamar right now is playing because you gotta remember he threw 5 touchdowns in that 3-point loss to Miami.
Yeah,
I mean he was incredible, and he was incredible again against New England. He's been incredible this season.
Yeah, and there was like some stuff like for the teams that I could kind of just briefly go over now, but like the Ravens are number 1 in how many touchdowns they've scored, which is 12. That's Lamar. But the Eagles are number 1 in total offensive yards and yards per game. That's Hurts. I mean, the Eagles are 48% on third down, and Hurts leads the league in yards per attempt and per completion while also doing the running stuff. His team's 3-0. The Ravens are 2-1. Their only losses to the Dolphins, you could argue they outplayed. So it's both of these teams are doing really well. Both these teams will be what looks right now to be a top 2 or 3 seed in their respective conferences, and they're dual threat quarterbacks. And that's what I said, like, even in the preseason breakdown when I was questioned about Hurts quite a bit, and I was like, he doesn't run like Lamar to the extent, but he's the next best thing behind Lamar in terms of the playmaker through the air and on the ground at the quarterback position. Well, I guess Josh Allen's in there too, but he's not quite the runner. Does it sometimes, stiff arms people to the ground, but
yeah, through 3 weeks, Jalen Hurts has 7 touchdowns, about 900 yards passing, and about just shy of 200 yards rushing. So solid, very solid. So yeah, I mean it's a fair point. I think Lamar has he's got almost 12 touchdowns actually, with
I think
almost 300 yards rushing. I mean he's been dominant.
I would have thought that it was Lamar, but they said that Jalen Hurts is the first quarterback in NFL history through 3 weeks to have over 900 yards passing and over 150 yards rushing, which he has 916 and 167. So that
to be fair, when Lamar first came into the league, he didn't play his like the first 3 weeks of the season. He had, you know what I mean? Like he played in the second half. So then the beginning of that next season, he probably wasn't passing for as much, or who knows?
Still got the MVP that year, though.
He did.
But what I was saying about the Eagles, and I know we still could not come true, but I said if Jalen Hurts can combine for 35 or more touchdowns and 15 or less turnovers, right now he has 1 pick and 7 touchdowns. So if he times that by 5, 35.
He's been fantastic.
You
were right.
A.J. Brown and Devonte Smith. Funny enough, on the live show, and you're like, I don't know what Devonte Smith has done, but John Dotson has 3 touchdowns.
Dude, as soon as I said that on
Smith
Sunday,
listen to the pod. Smith's the pod. Devonte, glad you're listening. Glad you could show up for the boys. When you baptize that guy at the 1, try and get that sucker in the end zone next time. Just get a little bit.
And Dotson was horrendous. He had like 1 catch for 9 yards.
Remember that 323 to -1 in passing yards?
My gosh.
Suffocation.
My gosh. Yeah. Devonte Smith's like, Jeff, I literally won the Heisman, bro. Lay off me. And then he catches a touchdown while being rock bottomed.
Yeah, it's just week 1, they had the new toy, and they gave A.J. Brown like 14 targets, 10 catches, and they blew it up. In a game, they had 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean,
power rankings and go ahead.
No, I just watching the Eagles. It's like they do some stuff like Dallas Goedert caught like a 25-yard screen for a touchdown. He's the tight end, and he gets like 12 yards upfield, and Jason Kelsey's in front of him blocking. Like they're just so athletic, offensive and defensive line combo. The Eagles are the best, and that's why they're winning football games.
Yeah, no, they're good. Power rankings and then Thursday night preview. You ready?
Yeah.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can go first. Just get it out of the way now. I hate my top 10. I hate really it's hard to rank them right now. There's so many teams that are like kind of coming out and looking good.
Yeah.
I just want to go over teams that did not make my list, but I guess could have. Broncos, Bengals, Chargers, Colts, Giants, Cowboys, 49ers, Browns. There may be some that shock people on there, but it's not a standings necessarily. It's just a real talk rankings, how they look from week to week. So I'm just going to go with it. Number 10, we've talked about a lot of these teams, but Jaguars had to make my list. Jaguars had to make my list after the last 2 games. They played 24-0, 38-10. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care who you play. If the Bills were putting up those numbers, we'd be drooling on ourselves. The Jags are killing teams. And this is 2 teams who potentially will make the playoffs in the AFC. Did last year. Well, actually, no, they didn't. Neither of them did. Holy crap. All right. Well, the Jags at number 10. Number 9, I have the Rams. They're 2-1. Their only loss is to the Bills. So I guess you can't kill them there, but Matt Stafford leads the league in interceptions, but he also has a 72% completion rating. So it's kind of like, it's like the highs and lows, but more consistently high than Carson Wentz a little bit. But also, like, they just have issues in the running game. Cam Akers is fumbling. We'll just move on. Number 9, I have the Packers. I listened to you last week, and the Packers and Vikings have to be next to each other. But I'm going to put, I don't know what's more impressive, the Vikings' only loss being to the Eagles or the Packers beating the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers were like crippled offensively. So I don't know what to make sense of them, but at 7 and 8, I have the Vikings and the Packers. I think they're both really good teams who no one wants to see, and that's just where I'm going to have them. At number 6, and this is not a shot at them, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to be higher and soon. They get Mike Evans back. They're going to get Godwin back. They're going to get Julio back. Their defense is ridiculous. They have the number 1 scoring defense, and they lead the NFL in takeaways. You can't run on them, and it's really, really hard to pass on them. They do everything well. They have the best middle linebacker tandem with Levante David and Devin White. They're just stacked. Got all of the Bucks. At number 5, I have the Ravens. These top 5 teams can be in any order, but I do feel confident in my top top 6 actually. We'll count the Bucs in there too. Number 5, Ravens. Did they outplay Miami in their only loss? You could say yes. It was a tremendous fourth quarter, but they have 12 touchdowns. That's an average of 4 per week. They put up points. Lamar's impossible to defend in the red zone. Rashad Bateman's been playing pretty well. They still have Mark Andrews. The defense just has a lot of holes right now. They need to shore it up there. But they also have the best kicker and a good punter. So their special teams usually has no problems, which is the reason why my next team is at number 4. The Chiefs are 2-1. Not going to kill them. They went into the Colts on their home opener and a desperate team that needed a win. Special teams and a late penalty killed them. They had every chance to win the game and didn't, but that's football. Got to get the W. They didn't. The number 3 team could be one. They may be there again, but I had to put the 2 3-0 teams ahead of them, which they lost to 1. I'm going to have the Bills at 3, even though they still may be the best team. But here's why I have 3. I understand that they have 77 first downs through 3 weeks. And I understand that they have the best point differential because they slaughter teams. But that's just it. I saw them have a game that was competitive, and they looked like they did not know how to handle it whatsoever. And Ken Dorsey, I think is his name, the guy who everyone saw throw a fit afterwards. At the end of each half, the time management debacle, and it's not a small sample size anymore. They haven't won a 1-possession game in 2 years. We can say it's fumbles. We can say it's coin flips. We can say it's overtime. It's just, what are they, 0-8 now in their last 1-possession games? Now, thankfully for them, they don't have many because this team has the capabilities. But they were out like 7 starters on the defense, and they lost to a team that is now 3-0, who I have at number 2. The Miami Dolphins. They get Byron Jones back off the pup. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are 1st and 3rd in receiving yards in the entire NFL. They have a serviceable tight end, multiple running backs, good left tackle. But what surprised me too is there was a built-in kind of excuse for the Bills to win. Well, our entire secondary was out, and they just threw the ball down our throat and put up 35. But that's not what happened. Defense still played good. And Miami's defense is what really, really surprised me, what they were able to do to Josh Allen in that offense. Javon Holland, Xavier Howard, and now they get Byron Jones back. This team can do some dynamic things defensively, and quite simply, they're 11-1 in Tua's last 12 starts. That's with the additions or without them. He's getting wins. And number 1, I just kind of got to pat myself on the back here with the Eagles. Through 3 weeks, even with the Lions keeping it close late and never really felt like it was close. It was just because they were walking down the field. Number 1 in total offense. Hurts has all the stats. They're nearly 50% on 3rd down. They have talent at every position. Best O-line, best D-line, arguably in the entire nation. There's a 2-1 team, Vikings, that they kind of beat the brakes off of in the public viewing eye on a Monday night. They beat the brakes off Washington, a divisional opponent. And the Lions, who are finding out are real, put up 35 and still couldn't beat them. This team has a good defense, and they're winning games with their offense anyway. Eagles at number 1. That's my top 10. I love my top 6, but 7 through 16. I mean, there's just so many teams that could be in there. And I left out the Chargers, 1, because they lost now 2 games. They're 1-2. And so many injuries. So I'm going to put them just off, even though I really, really want to put them
on. It's stupid how similar our lists are. Especially considering that there's a case between there's probably 10 teams that could fill up the 9 through 16 spots. I mean, legitimately. And we have all but 1 team difference. And it's funny because the team that you put at 10, I put at 11. I basically flipped a coin. I said, who would win this game today? I got the Cowboys at 10. They are what I thought they would be. And they're doing it with a backup quarterback. I think that's impressive. Their 1 losses to the Bucs. Opening night when the Bucs were actually healthy. Tampa's defense has been really good. Dallas didn't even score a touchdown in the game. I'm not going to say that's them being bad. I think that's just kind of what the game was. I did nudge them in over the Chargers. Cowboys have won 2 in a row. I got them at 10. At 9, I moved this team into my top 10 this week. They were not in there at all after me kind of arguing with you that you had them too high. I did bring them to 9, the Packers. They did go into Tampa and beat Tampa, period. End of story. But I gave them that simply for that. I think that they have won 2 in a row. And their only losses to the Vikings, so I have higher on them than this list, so I got to give them some respect. 8, I got the Rams, winners of 2 in a row. Their only losses to the Bills, so they're playing good football. When 2 great teams play, one has to lose. End of story. That's what happened to the Packers. That's what happened with the Rams. I didn't like that the Rams got annihilated, but I think they're slowly getting themselves back. They are still winning that division. 7, I have them a little lower than you had them. I have the Bucs at 7. As of right now, this team is a defensive-led team that has a veteran quarterback. Their offense is, how do I say this, obliterated.
In shambles.
It is an absolute shit show. It's probably the most embarrassing football Tom's played in a long time, since he threw 5 picks against Buffalo back in like 2013. I mean, this is
funny.
This is so bad.
It's still funny how nothing's going. And it's like, well, end of the game, down 8. What are we going to do? Go down, score a touchdown? What else is there to do?
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
Yeah. I got Bucs at 7, though. 6, I really like this team. I would pick this team to be in any game this year and beat anybody as long as it's at 1 o'clock. The Vikings. I like what the Vikings are. They win a game when their best player on their team had 2 catches for like 6 yards.
Just a little peep, in case you're listening. Jeff Okudah, welcome to the NFL.
Finally, by the way, because he looked like a bust until this season.
You see all 3 games he's played this year?
Nasty.
Nobody's getting nothing on Jeff Okudah.
No, he's been incredible. But the Vikings beat a good Lions team, not a great, but a good Lions team when they were down by 14 in the game. That has to mean something. I'm giving the Vikings 6 here. Our 5 is borderline identical for borderline the right reasons. By the way, the Vikings only losses to Philly, undefeated team. So Vikings got to be at 6. 5 is the Ravens. Their only losses to Miami, and they've been completely dominant in all 3 games. They just came up short in the Miami game when they kind of let off the gas. Other than that, there's nobody that has been more offensively dominant than them through 3 games. Lamar's arguably the MVP of the league through 3 games. I thought they had more holes than what I've seen. This is a really good football team. 4, Kansas City. I like Kansas City. I've come around on Kansas City. I no longer think they're finishing last in the division. But this team has flaws, and I've said this many times. And Patrick Mahomes is not as great as everybody kind of makes him seem like he can just will his way to victory. When he struggles, the team isn't good. You've seen some struggle out of him, throwing late interceptions. The team struggled around him. They're too talented to be anywhere farther down than 5 or 6. They'll be up this way pretty much the rest of the year. Kansas City at 4. We agree again. Buffalo at 3. Buffalo is the most dangerous team in this league. They are nasty. They are just better than everybody, as long as it's not a 1-possession game, as I have here in my notes, as you already alluded to. They went 0-6 last year in 1-possession games, and they're already 0-1 this year. Here's the thing. Get an 8-point or a 9-point lead, and you can't beat them. You can't beat them because they're going to blow you out by 3 scores. But God forbid, if it's less than 7, you have a shot, and you're probably going to win. Statistics say you do, at least. Buffalo at 3.
One more thing on the Bills. It's like they lose a week 3 game. They're 2-0. They go to Miami in the blistering heat, down 7 defenders. And when that game ended, it looked like Josh Allen needed to find a hole The world was ending. Ken Dorsey threw a tantrum. It's like, you guys, it's a loss on the road week 3, and you guys are acting like
To a divisional opponent.
You look like you just lost your chance to go to the playoffs or something. Like, they could not handle the loss. It's almost like this team is like, I don't know, it's kind of funky.
I don't want to bore you guys because this is obviously a podcast and we don't really have like ways to do screenshots or anything like that. But if you have not done so, take a look at the box score of the Bills and Dolphins game. But
man,
don't look at the score, just look at the box score.
I didn't take
That's
the
how
box on my phone, but I've seen it.
That's how impressive it is. I'll just go through it here. I try not to bore you. Here's the Bills' time of possession, 42 minutes to 19. Total yards, almost 500, 497 to 212. Passing yards, 382 to 171. Rushing yards, 115 to 41. First downs, 31 to 15. Penalties, 7 to 4. So obviously lots of penalties. Turnovers, 1. Dolphins had 0. Sacks, they had 4. The Dolphins only had 2. And then the worst of all, the Bills ran 90 plays. 90 plays. Dolphins only ran 39.
And were aided by the punt safety.
Yeah. Good point. I just couldn't believe that the Bills only mustered up 17 offensive points in a game that had that kind of statistical dominance. I've never seen anything like it.
Like, they had a Nick Wright said this. The Bills had a 20-play drive that ended in 3 points and a 17-play drive that ended in 0. 37 plays on 2 drives for 3 points. Bend but don't break. Maybe that's it. Score points. Force them to be good in the red zone. Don't let them get over the top and get that rolling momentum. And you got a chance to make it hard. And this team might just panic. Now we say that, but next week they'll probably win by 17 points.
They'll obliterate someone. Yeah. So quick recap. Cowboys, Packers, Rams, Bucks, Vikings, Ravens, Chiefs, Bills. 2-1. You had Eagles 1, Dolphins 2. I got the Eagles 2 simply because their best win through 3 games is the Vikings, which is a good team. The Dolphins' best win through 3 games is the Bills. That is literally my tiebreaker. Because I was like, how do I determine the tie? The Dolphins are playing very good football. And matter of fact, the second best win for the Dolphins have literally beaten my 3 team and my 5 team. The Eagles have beaten my 6 team, and that's it. So that's kind of what kind of got them there. The Dolphins are, man, I didn't realize that. I'm not trying to say that they were poorly coached last year, but I didn't realize that an offensive coach would do this much. Tyreek Hill obviously helps too. He's been fantastic through 3 games. A lot of people thought that, especially fantasy, he was dropping, that he would have to share targets with Waddle. He wouldn't see. He'd only see the over the top. Tua couldn't hit him over the top. Yet, no, he's been a G. They've been doing whatever they want with him. So,
just sucks that Tua got that back injury. Almost knocked him out of the game, but luckily they were able to put some biofreeze on it or something.
Do you think it was a concussion?
You tell me.
Let me say this. I've never looked drunk/dizzy and fallen to my knees because my back hurt.
I'll tell you this. I've had big back issues. I've pulled muscles 2 or 3 times in my lower back. There's never been a time where my back has immediately hurt and my hand doesn't just automatically go back to my back, Tua just looked like he had bottles state through his hand. He didn't look like he was in pain. He looked dizzy. I don't know. But I'm not a doctor.
Thursday night, you ready?
Yeah, just real quick on that, though. I think it was the Pat McAfee show. They said that, they're always working on new helmets and stuff. They're working on helmets for quarterbacks, only quarterbacks, that have almost like a pillow type pad in the back because so many quarterbacks have their heads snap off the turf. So they're looking for something that has like some extra, like, I don't know if you'd call it technology or fabric or whatever they can do to try and reduce the back of the head hitting the ground, like to try and take some of that pressure off.
Interesting.
Which would be smart.
Yeah. So keeping on the topic of the Dolphins, moving to Thursday night football before we go. Dolphins 3-0, traveling to Cincinnati to play the Bengals 1-2. Bengals preseason for us, we were high on them. We both liked the Dolphins, didn't think they'd be 3-0. Shockingly, I mean, we could talk about this for a whole nother hour, but the Dolphins schedule actually gets crazy favorable after this game. It's either this game or the next game. It gets stupid favorable. So, do they move to 4-0? If so, why?
If we're assuming Tua and T. Higgins are playing, right? They're not ruled out, so
yeah.
I think they do. Simply because one of the reasons the Bengals do so well is because of their big playability. And the Dolphins have seemed to eliminated that. That's what hurt the Ravens. That's what hurt the Bills. And they get another cornerback in Byron Jones. I think that their secondary is really good, and I think their offense is explosive. I think it causes a lot of problems for the Bengals, whose defense hasn't looked all that great. On the flip side, the home team on Thursday night has an edge, and they are wearing maybe the best jerseys in the history of all time. And we're talking about an offense that thrives on swag with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, Higgins, Boyd. I don't expect this to not live up to the hype. I think a total of 50 points will be scored. Man, it's going to look gloomy for the Bengals, but because it'd be easier to say, okay, Bengals go to 2-2 and the Dolphins will be 3-1, and the world will make a little bit more sense. I see a 4-0 Dolphins coming out here. I think Joe Burrow's more prone to turn the ball over in a game like this.
You look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. You play good, they pay good.
Andrew Bradish knows the next three lines. I know he's saying them right now. If he's listening, I don't know. I'm sorry about it.
Dude, I'm sorry, but you can't stroll out of that field in those white Bengal tiger uniforms and lose.
Can't wait to
watch those things are fire, dude. Fire.
And you know their cleats, their gloves are all gonna be orange. Their mouthpiece is gonna be orange.
If you haven't seen, they painted the B on the field. They painted that white too.
If they're wearing Under Armour, it's gonna be orange. They're gonna be looking sick. It's a nice color theme, but man, the Dolphins are probably showing up in their lime green color rush or something. Be looking. What if they wore their orange color rushes to the game since the Bengals are all white?
I'm kind of wondering what the Dolphins do wear, because I swear if they pull out their teal throwback unis, the screen, Amazon Prime can't handle that.
I will tell you guys, though, with Amazon Prime, I was able to finally sit down and I watched the fourth quarter of the Steelers-Browns. It was the first time I got to be home on a Thursday night. When you're looking at it, there is the game. And then there's another box you can click on it's like the game, Thursday Night Football Next Gen Stats is what it says. Have you clicked on this?
I have not. I've simply just watched the live stream.
Okay.
You're about to break something to me too.
Yeah, when you click the Next Gen, I'm telling you I love this. You watch the Manning cast ever?
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine on the right side of the screen, instead of the left, there's a column like that. And there's one across the bottom. And it'll just have stats and shit on there. It's real cool. Like, say the Bengals walk up to the line. It's like 3rd and 6. It'll be like, the Bengals are 32% this season on 3rd and 6 or longer. And on 3rd downs, Jamar Chase is targeted 48%, which leads the Bengals. It'll just throughout the whole game. It'll be there all game, just random stuff. And it's just like fun to like read. And then
that screams me.
And then before the play, they go to a camera which is called the All 22. It's like zoomed out from the top down to where you can see all 22 players. And the running back and every receiver and tight end, their name comes up highlighted underneath every receiver so you can tell who's who before the play. And then after the ball snapped, there's a lime green line that trails every receiver so you can see what routes they were running and everything. Then when they do the replays for that play, it goes to the normal broadcast, like on the camera for the replays. It's still the same exact audio of Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. They don't change any of that. It's just an extra screen to watch the game differently with like more for like your if you just want more. And I think when the NFL goes to the streaming platforms, I think they're going to have these options for many games. And it's like they have it and they're using Amazon as like this big test run this season. And gosh, I'm telling you to watch the next gen one. They do that all 22 camera. It's so cool. And then the replays are normal, all the stats. It's and then like the next gen stat stuff on the right, and then I believe at the bottom they just have like Joe Burrow, and underneath it'll be like 12 for 16, 119 yards, touchdowns, picks, maybe leading receiver and their rusher or two most yards. Like they just have like, or after a tackle they'll be like blah blah had this many tackles last week. This is his first one this week. Leads the lead like third on the team and you guys get it. I could ramble on with all this nonsense, but
I'm 100% watching that version this Thursday
such
night.
a cool way to watch the game.
Yeah. I will say I think there's a market for prime time viewing of multiple broadcasts. And I think the Madden cast really opened up that market where if you're not a Giants and Cowboys fan last night, maybe you don't want to listen to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Maybe you want to listen to Peyton Manning's analysis of a game. Maybe you want to listen to Eli's comical humor. Maybe you want to listen to some random comedians and stuff jump on when they're drunk and make a fool of themselves. Maybe you want to listen to other athletes talk about some teams. I think there's definitely a market for that stuff, and I think there's a market for having a stat-filled screen of people that want to know the game beyond the game. That's definitely what I would like.
And they have like a group with all those stats at their fingertips, uploading the whole game, and they didn't change anything for the audio. They never talked about the next gen stats. They never referenced that video. You just heard Alan Kirk like you're watching the normal thing. It was just a different camera where you could, and if you're a fantasy player and you're watching the game, you're like, which one? Okay, T. Higgins is in the slot this play. Oh, he's far left right now. And when you watch the routes, you can see where the safeties go. It's just kind of fun to be able to see everybody. Like, remember when they tried it for the Steelers game? I think it was against the Titans where they had the camera like 80% of the game it was behind the offense. They try stuff. But this all 22 camera, it's not like zoomed out where, like, if you haven't seen it, then you've seen the memes like on your Facebook or Twitter where it's Tecmo Bowl and it's like, oh, Prime Video trying their new. Dude, for them to try and make fun of that, I thought it was a way better. There's no way I'd watch the normal if that thing is there. I mean, it's just no way. Because if you're watching only one game, odds are, maybe I'm for this, but your odds are you're watching it on a 50-inch TV or bigger. So, like, when you bring in those next-gen stats, it's not like your screen is like you can't see what's going on. I had no problem telling what was going on, and it was just – I just looked at it, and I just remember thinking, like, after one play, I was like, I like this. Like, it was just so – I wasn't, like, hooting and hollering. I like this a lot. This is how I'm going to watch this game. They didn't have to do anything extra. I still got to hear Kirk and Al, which was phenomenal. It wasn't just someone reading me stats all game that I'm looking at on the TV. No, it was all visual.
So one more thing before we go here. According to Bleacher Report, Bengals are favored by 4. You like the Dolphins to not just cover but win outright.
Yeah, but if I was betting the game, I would just take the points. I'd take Dolphins +4. I'd say I'd take them. Like, I'm going to take the Dolphins in my Pick'ems league.
Yeah.
But if I was a betting man, I would take the 4 points.
Yeah.
Because the Bengals, this could be a must-win AFC game. You drop to 1-3 if you lose it. And if you're the Bengals and you obviously believe you can go all the way, you would like to have the tiebreaker over the Dolphins. Well, Dolphins would too, but.
No, I think it's a big game. I got the Bengals here. This is just If the Bengals can't win this one, they need to go in panic mode at 1-3. I mean, obviously, they got some things to work on, but I think they can win this game at home. It's a big one. So
being at the Bengals is huge for them.
Yeah. Anything else for you?
No, man. Basketball and hockey starting up in the next 2.5 weeks, though. It's exciting.
Yeah, man, we're full-fledged into football. Basketball's coming up. MLB playoffs are literally around the corner. College football's full swing. I know you got the Luka flashing at everybody. Yeah, I love football. I'm glad it's here. All right. Anything else? All right, guys. We out.
Real
Real talk.